with senior Irish handicapper Noel O'Brien. Noel, the Ferryhouse Easter Festival, it's always a big part of the Irish fixture, but this year with the addition of the Grade 1 Mares Hurdle, the Powers Gold Cup and a superb renewal of the Ladbrokes Irish Grand National, you must be very much looking forward to it.
Oh, it's great. How quickly the year comes around, you know. No sooner Cheltenham's over, roll on Ferryhouse, roll on Aintree after that, and then looking forward to Punchestown. No, it's been great. I think the Irish National, huge entry of 81, headed by Kel Esprit, a very strong Willie Mullins entry. Hard to believe that he's never won the race. I was actually surprised, but he'll be trying to emulate his dad, who did it in his time. But I thought a very strong Cheltenham form represented. A lot of the novices are there. A lot of the horses, White Star Line, who had been placed over there as well, Romanesco, who was placed, Boston's Angel, all these are down there as well. And I suppose the likes of Back in Focus will grab a lot of people's attention, and I think right the way through it, a very strong entry.
You've made Kel Esprit top of the weights. He's obviously had one or two in and out runs. How many runs do you let before you forgive him, before you drop him? Because of course he is a Grade 1 winner of the past. Is it hard to make horses like that top weight or to assess them in recent form?
See, it is, because in the back of your mind you're always thinking a horse is handicapped on his best form. This was a Grade 1 winning horse, well fancied for the Gold Cup in his time. Obviously he's had his problems. I thought he ran an absolute blinder on his comeback run, up there disputing with them until he got tired late on, which you would expect. But off a rating of 157, when you take it that Sir de Champs, for instance, is 173, it's not, you know, that 14 pounds, it's a big difference, you know. So I think what you're trying to do is to make him competitive, but not to advantage him too much with the rest of the field. So that's where we came from with the rating of 157.
With Kel Esprit, would you have taken Sir de Champs' Gold Cup run into account?
We would have looked at it. I think really though, in the case of Kel Esprit, you're looking at him in slightly in isolation because he has a horse who's been off. But at the time he was a very, very good horse in his own right. We're kind of looking more at, say, Junior, who is the top English entry, looking at him in relation to where Kel Esprit would be. And I think most people, if you put them in a match, you'd probably go for Kel Esprit to beat Junior. So, and that's what the weights would reflect.
You mentioned novices have a great record. I think number 6 Valverde was a novice when he might have won it. How do you assess novices? Do you maybe give them a pound or two less because they're taking on more experienced horses?
With great difficulty at times with these novices. I think because you've less evidence, because you haven't seen them as much, there is always that element of, well, how much more improvement is there in them? The likes of Kel Esprit, the likes of Junior, these are well-exposed horses who've been there for years. Your novices coming through, the likes of Competitive Edge, the likes of Rich Revival, these horses who are on the improve, they've been penalised, but I suppose their connections are hoping that there's still more improvement in them. And it is difficult. It is difficult simply because there's less evidence than there is for the older horses, but that's always been the way.
We have to mention the raiding party. They won it with Mudahim, I remember, and a few other horses in years gone by. It's great to see them support the Irish National, and we always like to see an English horse run well in it.
It is. I was just funny a few years ago, Rob, there, Butler's Cabin won it.
That's right.
After coming over, and I was slagging my English counterpart, you know, with these English horses coming over, trained by John Joe O'Neill, owned by JP McManus, and ridden by Tony McQuives, and these English horses, you know, it's, but they were actually first and second that year, I think. I think it is important. We've just had a very successful raiding party to Cheltenham, and I think English trainers have to believe also that if they come, that they will be competitive, and that's what we've been trying to do.
It obviously is clashing quite close to Aintree, so it's difficult to assess what runs. But if people are having a bet, how far do you look down to say this horse will get in and maybe this horse won't get in? How far? Because of the 81, are you talking the top half? Are you talking more than that?
We're looking at 53 of them are in they're in the handicap proper. So if the fact that 30 is the limit, you know, you're probably looking somewhere around 130, 132 required to get into the race, first of all. there is that element of what will go elsewhere. That's the way to. I mean, this race in its own right is 250,000. You know, it's a serious pot. I think a lot of connections will be looking to see, will they get a run in Aintree perhaps, or would they prefer to stay local? And I think this year for the Irish National, I think it will benefit by being before Aintree, because people now are saying, we'll make up our minds. What are we going to go for? Are we likely to get in there? And if not, you know, take in a very, very good substitute. You know, $250,000 now it's not to turn your nose up at.
And in the dream world for Noel O'Brien, you want 6 or 7 horses jumping that last together.
Oh yeah, that would be the. I dream about stuff like that. Sadly, it doesn't always happen. But no, I think this year's renewal in particular. Obviously, when we see the horses that are actually going to go in it, I think you're going to see a very competitive race, simply because of the competitiveness of the entry.
Now, speaking of dream worlds, for Ireland, we had a dream week at Cheltenham last week. I don't think anybody in their wildest dreams could have thought we would have beaten England 14-13.
I think you would have got great odds on that going over, something like the odds they got on some of the Irish winners. But no, it was like being in dream world. It was a very strong rating party. I mean, when you look at it, some of them were surprises, but the likes of Hurricane Fly going back, the likes of our Connor, who would have been head and shoulders our best hurdler, even Novice Chasers, I didn't think they were quite as good as they were, but there was nick or nothing between them at home, and they brought that form with them to Cheltenham. And it just shows you, to be getting horses over there fit and well is such a huge thing. And I think perhaps last year that may not have been the case. We were touched off in a few races last year. This year we came out on the right side of those bobbing finishes. So unbelievable. But it will just show you the difference between a huge record success of 14 and a lot less. There's not much difference between them.
What pleases you more, the fact that we did so well in the Supreme Novice, we were first and third, we were first, second, third in the RSA, or the fact that we won a couple of the handicaps? Ted Veal won, the Gordon Elliott horse Flaxen Fair won. What pleases Noel O'Brien more from a handicap perspective?
I suppose I'm a bit biased because I loved the success of Hurricane Fly. I think for many people in Ireland, we've known for years that this is the best hurdler we've had since Isterback, and through circumstances of small fields in Ireland, you know, the big thing about him was he's only beating 1,000 stars. He's only beating these. I mean, this is a Grade 1 performer in his own right, and I thought it was great for him to go back with certain doubts about him. It was great to go back, lay that ghost, beat 2 former champions, and to regain his crown. I just thought it was what the horse deserved, and he's got his place in history now. First horse since Comedy of Errors to do that, and that gave me a lot of pleasure. And
from a Gold Cup perspective, say looking next season, does Sir Deschamps now set the benchmark for Irish chasers, or how do you sum his run up? Because it probably was a career best in the Gold Cup.
That's what we would have said as well. We have him rated now 173, Rob, and I think strange race that if you stopped it after the last, you kind of think, you know what, he'll come up that hill as he's done before, and hard to believe he was beaten 7 lengths in the end, because in the end he just looks like he's going up and down to one spot, which was not what you might have expected. I think he's beaten by a better horse. That's no disrespect to him at all. He is the best of ours now in the Gold Cup category, and you'd hope that he, the likes of Flemenstar, the likes of Bog Warrior, who on a different level ran, I thought, a great race as well. And
subsequently injured now.
Subsequently injured. And I mean, that was a funny one, because looking at it, turning in, I thought he had everything in trouble. You know, that it was no surprise in the end to see that perhaps something had gone wrong. But even the fact of back in focus, Tolfino Bay, first and second in the 4 mile, you know, this will give you reasons for optimism that perhaps we haven't had for a few years now.
Now, I suppose the only bright side that Cheltenham is over is that Punchestown now cannot come soon enough, and already we're hearing Flemenstar against Sprinter Sacra, Connor, Cavaig against Solwith. Potentially it's going to be a Punchestown not to miss.
Oh, I'd say Punchestown now are absolutely salivating at the moment, and Nicky Henderson confirmed that Sprinter Sacra would go there. great to see that the cases are considering running Fleming Star, because that, I think, with Sizing Europe going against him in Cheltenham, it gave much more credence to the race. I think Sizing Europe doesn't run. If Sprinter Sacco wins easily, people are saying, well, what did he beat? He's beaten a former champion. He's beaten one of the best 2-milers we've had in recent years. For that then to go forward to Punchestown is, I'd say if a few of those clashes came to pass, it would be worth the admission money alone.
Because every day it appears we're going to have a massive clash. Like even on the Wednesday, now there's talk that both Sir de Champs and First Lieutenant are going to run the 3 Mile. Mouse is finally going to get his wish. And if we got Bobsworth and who knows, 1 or 2 others, it's going to be potentially the best renewal we've had at that race for a few years.
And that, I think, it's when you're looking at these Grade 1s, that's what you want. The best from Ireland, best from England. And I think the fact that it comes at the time it does, there's huge prize money there. It's like chicken and egg scenario. Put it on and they'll come. And I think the fact that we have so many good horses on both sides of the pond, and to continue the rivalry of Cheltenham at Punchestown would set the seal to a truly amazing season.
Well, it's a great time for Irish racing, there's no doubt about that.
I think we keep talking about these golden ages, but 14 minutes at Cheltenham, unbelievable. Hurricane Fly regaining his crown. Our Connor, the most impressive juvenile winner that I've seen in years. I mean, I'm holding you off now, but just, it's a funny thing. Normally in that race, in the Triumph, you see a whole host of horses finishing together. He blitzed them by 15 lengths, and yet the rest of them finish in a group, as you'd expect. He looks outstanding, and I'd say they're really Desi's looking forward to go for more champion hurdle glory, I'd say.
Well, there you go. Ferryhouse and Punchestown cannot come quick enough. Irish racing in a golden age, says Noel O'Brien.